And there was one night I was laying there and I realized I didn't have room for God. I didn't have the energy to hold on anymore. And I'm not super spiritual, but I have my moments, and I felt like I was holding on to God's hand, and I just said, I'm sorry. And I let go.
Can people really change? What are the moments that shape us? What causes some people to drastically switch their beliefs while others seem to stay the same? Is it something that happens to us? Is it something we can control? Let's explore these questions together through personal stories of those who have encountered the shift storm.
So welcome to Shift Storm, a podcast about people experiencing change. I am Chris Cowan, and I am excited to welcome today's guest, James Kennison. Welcome,
Hi.
James.
Thanks for having me, man.
So we might sound a little different today. That is because we are actually recording live in front of an audience.
Here in St. Louis.
Yes. So hi, audience. Hi. That's right. I've never recorded in front of an audience before. It's a new
fun.
experience for me.
It's great.
I'm welcoming you to my show, but I feel welcomed. Maybe not after this show, but I feel welcomed here as your guest.
NarthexCon,
yeah, we're at NarthexCon. What is NarthexCon? Explain it to us.
NarthexCon is a collection of awesome people. We don't have the best podcasts in the world, but we have the best listeners in the world, and that's who's here today from all over the country. Listeners that are coming together to do trivia, giveaways, to listen to us do the live recordings, to get to know each other. We're going to have a blast. It's
awesome.
going to be good.
Yeah. And you are the host, kind of your flagship podcast that you've been doing for 18 years.
Yes.
Is called That Story Show, and it's about funny life stories, which I'm really glad you invited me here because my show is basically about sad life stories.
Apparently.
But it's not all sad. Every life story is going to have some ups and downs, and we're going to talk about some of those downs, and we're going to talk about the ups, and we're going to talk about how you're doing today and all of that. You're also the host of several other podcasts, including one called Outliving Depression.
Yes. Recently rebranded from the Gospel of Kennison. Yeah, Outliving Depression is basically my audio journal.
Awesome. Cool.
So if you like how depressing I am on this show, just wait until you get over there to Outliving Depression.
No, it's actually, as much as I love That Story Show, Outliving Depression, formerly The Gospel of Kennison, is one of the podcasts I actually find the time to listen to the most.
Oh, wow.
So
nice.
Saying find the time to listen to isn't exactly an enthusiastic review, but it's...
I'll take what I can get, dude. I'm surprised these folks even showed up, so... Yeah.
They all found the time to listen. Not only listen, but come out here from all over the country to listen. So
you guys rock.
So we're talking about depression. Tell me about your past beliefs and values. Let's just start there. Like growing up in your early life, who were maybe some of your primary influences, and like what, if you were just to be like, what was I living for? Let's start with that question.
Okay. So I was the oldest of three for quite a while, and then my mom married my stepdad and had two more kids. So I was the oldest of five after that. My real father left when I was very young. Had very little influence over my life. I was told that he was a drunk and that he was dangerous and that he was not interested in us. Turned out he's just bipolar and probably had a drinking problem. You know, I would, but I can't afford it. So,
hey, whatever keeps you off the bottle.
Yeah, you know, that's right.
How did that influence, like, kind of your view of the world?
Well, I definitely didn't want to get married unless I stayed married. So that's why Jen and I dated for 3 years. And then after we got married, I was definitely not going to have kids until I made sure we stayed married. So we were married for 8 years before we had our first kid.
Wow.
And then I was like, I'm going to be a great husband before I have to learn to be a great dad. But after 8 years, I'm like, well, maybe I'll be a good dad because the husband thing never really worked out. So I am a great dad.
Jennifer's here. Is she nodding her head? She's like, okay, she's nodding her head. All right.
He's a good dad. But no, my mother also struggled with depression. But I always felt like she used it as an excuse to just not be involved in life and stuff like that.
Okay.
And so my early childhood, especially when it came to depression, I thought it was a big excuse for people. And if they just snapped out of it, they would be better off for it. You know, there was something wrong with them, but not really wrong with them. You know?
Right.
Like they were lazy.
Like it wasn't something that they were subjected to. It was something.
It was something that just like if you would just get up and get some exercise, or if you would eat right, if you would just give a crap about things, something would change for you, and you could snap out of it. So, yeah.
So looking back now as someone who since that time has experienced depression and what that's like, how does that shape your view of that impression of depression that you got from your mom?
Well, I'm sure that there are people that fake it. I mean, population being what it is, there's got to be people that are people fake. You know, have you ever seen the people that walk around with crutches? And it's like, why do you have crutches all the time? Like all the time, you know? Or you wear a neck brace and
like you're only missing one leg.
Yeah,
come on.
No, I'm talking about people that just they have crutches. Like that one guy had that pet alligator that he lost in Florida. Let's all pray for him because he's never going to find that alligator ever. The thing is gone. No, so I'm sure there are people that fake it. I think my mom milked it. You know, I think she was depressed, but I think it was situationally based, because there's two basic kinds of depression. And I'm no doctor, but this is my experience. There is situation-based depression, like postpartum, and like your mom just died, and things are adding up. Your job's bad, and you have legitimate depression. I'm not saying that's not legitimate. You have all the symptoms, but then there's the depression that I had, that nothing's wrong in your life, and it's just all the chemicals quit mixing properly in your brain, and you just get absolutely, completely depressed. And what changed for me is I realized that people that are legit depressed can't help it. They have an illness. They have a legitimate medical condition. It's not spiritual. It's not something that they can just snap out of. The way I describe it is this way. Imagine if you were at a theme park and you were in line to go on a roller coaster, but then you get a phone call that says your spouse just died in a car accident.
Right.
And your friend's like, no, let's go on the ride. No, I don't want to go on the ride. Going on the ride is the worst idea of all time right now. I don't have the energy. I don't have the emotions. I don't have the spirit. I don't have, matter of fact, experiencing the thrills of the ride would be torture because of what I've just found out. I can't stay here. Yeah. Oh, no, just snap out of it. Get on the ride. You'll feel fine.
Yeah.
Let's go have some fun. No, that's it. Depression literally takes everything that's good and twists it. It takes your family and twists it. It takes your values and twists it. It takes the truth about you, and magnifies it and amplifies it and makes it seem bigger than it really is.
When I like the example you give is actually like a situational depression that can be traced to like, oh, well, my wife just died in a car accident.
Right.
Obviously, I'm going to be depressed.
Right.
I would imagine it's a whole other layer of complexity.
When there's nothing wrong?
When there's not something you can trace it back to.
It is frustrating, because then you start looking at God. If you're a Christian person, you start asking God, okay, why? Why did this happen? I was successful. I was at the top of my game. I was ministering to kids. Shouldn't that somehow protect me? Where are you? I'm praying. I need healing. I don't want to lose my job, because it was a long time before the job thing happened. But there was years,
of course,
previous to that this slow decline that just started with a general sense of doom, like feeling like I was doomed. And then my sleep patterns started getting messed up, and it just kept escalating and escalating and escalating to the point that finally I was like, I need to give this church the children's pastor they deserve, and that is no longer me, you know? So, yeah, it's tough when there's nothing to attach it to.
You used to look at depression as something like a lot more straightforward, a lot less, like a lot more, this is something, you just got to figure it out. You got to figure this out,
I didn't
snap
think
out of
much
it.
about it at all, except for the context of my family.
Right.
You know, I found out as an adult that my dad was bipolar. They call it manic depressive back then. And then my mother was, and I found that out after I started showing signs of bipolar and depression and anxiety. Let's not forget anxiety for the win. That's a fun one.
Got the 2-in-1 deal.
Yeah. It's great. They have medications for all of it. And you know how you know what's funny is there's no way for them to say, oh yeah, you have depression. We took your blood. You have depression in your blood. You know, that's not what they do. What they do is they give you depression medicine, and if it helps, then they know you have depression.
Wow.
It's like, could you imagine if you took your dog to the vet and it's like, he's got rabies? Well, we don't know that. We're going to give him some rabies vaccination. If he lives, then he had rabies.
That's like, oh, we're going to do an amputation, and if that fixes it, like...
Yeah, if that takes away the pain in your leg.
We know it was that. That was the solution.
If not, we're going to cut off the other one.
Okay,
So,
interesting. So what was the first sign that, like, something wasn't working right?
yeah, I was in Kansas City. I was at work, and I just remember looking up at the calendar and looking at events coming up, and this feeling of doom came. That's the only word I could use, because when I started seeing a counselor, that's what I told him. I'm like, I'm feeling like doom is coming, like bad things are coming. These events that I had set up in advance suddenly were not exciting and something to look forward to. They became oppressive, and they were tasks that I had to do with energy I didn't have. And it was bad. It was bad. And I went to the doctor, and I started taking some basic depression meds, and things were fine for about 2 years. And then they quit working, and the doctor said, it's time for you to see a psychiatrist.
And were you looking for other ansers at
Oh, yeah,
that time?
dude. We tried everything. We prayed through, because, you know, at first you think it's spiritual, you know. This feeling of doom's from the devil, you know. I'm gonna cast out the devil and be, you know, all this. It must be hidden sin, because that's what I always thought about other people. Their lives are messed up because they have hidden sin. Guess what? We all have hidden sin. We all hide our sin. We all got something. I watch Rick and Morty. Okay, there's my hidden sin.
Well, now it's not hidden, so
now
you got to
it's
think
not
of something
hidden.
else.
I had to find something darker and deeper. I made out with that cow back there. How about that? Yeah.
But the cow was kind of coming onto you.
It's a free cow. It said free cow.
so-
I didn't say what it was free for, so I hugged it and gave it a smooch. So just don't kiss it in the same place I did. It was in the rear.
That's a weird thing to do.
I know, but I had to take it to the next level, and I wasn't finding it, and so kissing it on the butt made it.
Next time
make
that'll
sense.
be an unspoken prayer request.
Yes,
and we'll
I don't
just-
believe in those, because whenever I hear unspoken, I think they're doing something naughty, and they just don't want us to know.
That's immediately my assumption is like, you're doing something dirty.
Yeah,
Like,
there's a
just spill
75-year-old
the tea,
lady,
or don't
and
even.
she's quietly just like, I just have an unspoken. I'm like, what are you doing on the internet?
Right.
Did you just find it? Because there's bad stuff on there, lady. Anyway, what was your question?
Oh, I'm all out. No. So let's talk about the moments leading up to that pivot point.
Yeah, that was a long time coming. It was actually the third time I had handed in my resignation.
Oh, wow.
Because I left Sheffield Family Life Center in Kansas City, a church of 5,000. I had 350 kids every weekend. I had 135 volunteer positions, which I only had about 120 volunteers at any time. So we never had enough. But we left there because we thought the job was the problem. It was too much. So we went to a church of 500, which is still huge, but it was small for us. And I only had 50 kids, you know?
Right.
And it was supposed to be great. And things were for about a year. And but then the depression came back, and I went to my boss with my resignation in hand, because I have to tell him what I didn't tell him before. I have to tell him I suffer from major depressive disorder and anxiety disorder, and he's probably going to want to let me go. And so I went in there with that ready, and he, of course, didn't take it. Second time we went in there, I said, "Boss, I can't keep regular or office hours. I'm so tired. I'm so depressed. I'm locking myself in the office, crying. I'm teary-eyed. I'm desperately hoping nobody needs me. I'm finding places around the church to sleep or to nap." And which made my wife real happy. She was working with me at the time. She'd come in, "James, you are snoring. Everyone can hear you." And so it was really bad. So yeah, by the time I said, "Tell the board you finally accepted my resignation," that was the third.
That was the third time.
Third and final time.
Wow. And
even then he said, "Well, the board meeting's not till Friday. If you change your mind between then and now, let me know." And I said I felt dark and hollow and empty, and I did, but immediately what my depression and my anxiety let me feel was peace and release.
Right.
Because I suddenly wasn't under the burden of having to do that event where I was going to stand in front of the church and basically lie, spin, if you want to use the Christian word, that year full of failure. All the events that I wasn't able to do, the Christmas, Halloween, VBS, the child choir, all of the stuff that you do. We didn't do anything, And what was I going to say? What was I going to do? Lie? And I really got convicted about it. It's like they deserve a fully functional children's pastor, and I'm in the way of that.
Wow.
And so I don't know that that was the truth or not, but that's what depression led me to believe, and that's why I wanted to quit.
What did that do to your sense of identity?
It removed it because, I don't know, I was watching The Acolyte. I don't know if you've seen The Acolyte or not, but it's really good. The first episode that you fell asleep halfway through the other day at my house, it was really good.
We watched the pilot together, and I was so tired. I fell asleep halfway through.
I threw a pillow at him.
It's a great show. I love the pilot. It was fantastic, but I was really tired.
You know when I met him for the first time? Yesterday. I hit him with a pillow at my house.
He did. Yeah.
No, I forgot what I was going to say now, but it was about The Acolyte.
It's about The Acolyte.
Yeah. What was your question?
What did that do to your sense of identity?
Oh, okay. She talked about this in The Acolyte because she was studying to be a Jedi, and she ended up being a person that works on the outside of spaceships while they're in space, which is technically illegal because only robots are supposed to work on spaceships outside in space. And they asked her, why did she do that? And she said, well, when you quit being a Jedi, nothing translates into real life. And that's exactly what I found myself into. My skills as an artist, as a speaker, as a children's communicator, as just everything that was good about me suddenly was useless. And my identity was so wrapped up in what I could do for God and for others and for my family that my self-esteem, my value went below zero to the darkest place, to where I felt godless and empty and hollow. And I won't say I never thought about suicide, because I had a plan. It was a dumb plan. I made a dumb plan on purpose so I would never do it. Because my dad killed himself when he was 43, and I wanted to outlive him. And but I did have those days that my doctor says is the same thing of wishing I'd never been born. It's the same feeling. It's just a healthier way of, safer way of emulating that. So yeah, it took me so far down that I felt like I was a problem to my children. And that's where I say that depression will even take the truth and manipulate it. Oh, James, you have it. Your mom, your dad had it. You're going to give it to them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And that's possible. That is within the realm of possibility.
Right.
So what does Satan do in the Bible? He takes scripture, right? Yeah. And he wraps his lie around the truth. And so it feels real. If part A is real, then part B must be real. And I joke about it on my own show that you have to lie like the devil lies. You take the truth and wrap the lie around it. But that's exactly what depression does. And it says, oh, you're useless to your family. And I pretty much was. But ask them, and it's still worth having me around. They still love me. So it takes the truth and says, you know what, this might last forever. And it might. But is my life still valuable? I've learned now, I'm getting a little ahead of the game, but now that, yes, absolutely, my life is valuable, whether or not I can produce or perform or put out anything of value, because inherently I'm a child of God. I am someone that was created with a purpose. And even if I don't fulfill that purpose, I'm still valuable. But depression tells you the exact opposite of that, and it's so real. It's so real. That's why people kill themselves. I used to think people that committed suicide were not strong.
Yeah.
I thought they were giving up. My dad killed himself. He was a loser, right? So you're talking about a shift. I realized real quick that these people fought so hard for their lives. To want to kill yourself is anti everything about being a human. You eat so you can stay alive. You breathe so you can stay alive. You sleep. You have dogs and pet them so you can live longer. Everything about us is set to survive and to live and to thrive. But depression will make you want to not be alive anymore. And that is it doesn't come automatically. It takes time, and it wears on you, and it eats you, and it burrows you out from the inside and makes your guts hollow and makes you feel useless, and it gives you pain, mental anguish that you feel physically. And that's why your Robin Williams and your other creatives and people like that have done this, and you're like, where did that come from? Yeah. Wow. And you don't know the years and years and years of struggle that got them to that point. And so I don't dare judge anybody that kills themselves. I think it's horrible. I think it's a travesty. And I was told by my doctor that the only people that don't survive depression are the people who give up, that everybody gets better. But the lie that depression tells you is that it will never end. It'll always be this way. It'll never get any better. And everybody would be better off without you.
Wow. What was the aftermath? You came to this realization. You finally turned in your resignation. You couldn't say, you wouldn't take no this time.
Yeah.
What was, how long ago was that?
Jen?
12 years ago.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
it was.
Talk to me about the aftermath. How did that impact relationships?
Oh gosh, I'd have to drag my wife up here. I disappeared from life. I laid in my bed for 2 more years, pretty much, wow. and suffered. I had constant panic attacks that affected my heart, that just physically hurt. I'd hold my breath against them, and just anguish, crying, screaming, trying new medicines that kept me awake all the time or made me sleep through. I only had one job: pick up my kids. I wouldn't even make it to pick up my kids. At times it scared my wife. If she couldn't get a hold of me, she assumed I'd killed myself. But my wife tried to continue to go to our church, and she tried to keep up with our old friends, and everyone turned their back on us. Every person. And our church was not only our church, it was where I was working. It was our friend base. It was where my kids went to school. It was everything. And it all went away overnight. And I am not the one that suffered through all of that. It was Jen. So.
What did that do to your view of your faith, of God?
I didn't have room in me to handle any of that, because prior to depression, faith was something I struggled with. I felt like the cat on the end of the proverbial rope in the hang in there poster, that I had to hold on to God, and I had to struggle, and I had to tense up all my muscles to hold on to my faith, because if I didn't do this, if I didn't stick in there, if I wasn't doing right, praying right, believing right, I was going to let go and I was going to lose everything. And salvation was work. And there was one night I was laying there and I realized I didn't have room for God. I didn't have the energy to hold on anymore. And I'm not super spiritual, but I have my moments, and I felt like I was holding on to God's hand, and I just said, I'm sorry. And I let go. And I expected to feel falling. I expected to feel a release, a removal, a darkness. But he didn't let go of me. And right then I realized that 99.99%, if not 100% of my relationship with God is his grace and him. And there's so little that is expected of me. And so I wasn't able to completely lose my faith because of that. So
I think that's...
We're going to do comedy later.
Yeah. I think that is a beautiful picture right there of something that gets missed a lot.
It's a lesson everybody needs to learn.
Yeah.
Because it's not a struggle. It's not supposed to be like that. You know, we say carry your cross. Jesus said my burden is easy and light. You know, but how many of us experience Christianity that way? No, it's a bunch of rules and regs and all this. And we worry about being known for our morality, and we're supposed to be known by our love.
Yeah.
You know? So I think we've got some stuff mixed up. And
I think so.
Everybody needs depression. Bah!
That's the solution. Everybody get depression
It
so you
came
can
in your
understand
gift
God's
bags,
grace.
everybody. So it's that
in your
little
gift
cow.
bags.
It's a pill. You take it at night, at midnight.
Don't eat the cow. Please
Sacrifice your firstborn.
Don't eat the little cow that's in your gift
Don't
bag.
eat the baby cow.
I think that is something that we do in human nature, and it is something that I've experienced that as well, where it's like I grew up with this mindset of just I gotta put out this image. I was very self-righteous.
Right. Yeah.
I'm perfect now, so I'm not self-righteous anymore.
A lot better than you guys.
Yeah. But I think
They're
that
the
is
only ones here. I'm better than everybody.
It's a theme that I feel like I'm continuously learning, is this idea that it is in our human nature to feel like we have ownership of our relationship with God.
Right.
That we are the ones who define that. And it's not that we have no part in that. It is a relationship.
But what's required? Here's the thing I want to beat you to the punch. If we had somebody come to us and they said, you know what, I have struggles and problems. I feel empty. I feel heartless. I don't have any meaning in my life. I'm interested in Christianity. What do I have to do? We'd be like, it is so easy.
Right.
All you have to do is believe in your heart and confess with your mouth.
Yeah.
You know, salvation prayers aren't even in the Bible. You can skip it. Just tell me right now that you believe in Jesus. Let's go get you baptized too, just for fun. And it'll be easy. But then if a Christian comes to us with the same issues, what do we do to them?
Yeah.
Are you going to church?
Right.
Are you reading your Bible? Are you spending time in prayer? Are you fasting? Are you doing more? Are you doing more? Are you accomplishing? Are you impressing God? Are you doing everything you're supposed to be doing? And it's not. For us to think that the grace that God gave us before we were saved is not there for us afterwards is ridiculous.
Why do you think we do that? Why do we do that?
I think we're Americans, first of all, and we are pull us up by our own bootstraps. I think every culture mixes their culture in with their religion. I think it's very obvious when you look at politics right now. I lean a certain way, and I'm not going to get political. I'm just saying I wouldn't vote for either one of them if I had the choice.
He's a communist, in case you're wondering. He's a communist.
Because one of them is very old, and the other one is just not a good person. You can argue on whether he's a good businessman or a good president, but nobody can say the man is a good person.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
He grabbed her by the... There we go. I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
So, anyway, I don't remember where I was going with that, but
there's a book I recently read that I highly recommend to anyone who is interested in finding navigating a relationship with God. It's called The Cure. And it starts off...
It's a great band, too.
Yeah, it's also a great band. If you listen to The Cure while reading The Cure...
You get double cure.
Well, it gets you closer to heaven, is what I've found.
Yeah. And if it doesn't, I'll save you a seat in the other place. Yeah. So that's probably where I'm going. So.
It starts off with a man at a crossroads. There's two different paths. One is pleasing God, and the other is trusting God. And
Trusting. I want to go the trusting way. I used to go the pleasing way, but
right. Well, and that is the thing that's like, well, I want to please God.
Yeah.
But anyways, I'm not gonna go do a full book review, but I'm just saying, like, if that picture strikes you as interesting at all,
yeah, it reminds me of a C.S. Lewis type.
Read the book,
you know, because he liked to use visualizations like that with
like the Great Divorce and that kind of thing. Yeah. Which isn't about divorce. Yeah.
No.
So bring me up to speed now. That was 12 years ago.
Yeah.
You've been through a lot.
10 years of hell. Okay.
Okay. My favorite part is you have to press 20 buttons in order to get to the censor button. So it's
late.
It's like
after the words already been
CNN with
said.
your 2-minute delay. Okay.
Yeah. No, 10 years and the last year and a half or two I finally have gotten my head above water. Okay. I believe that I am healed. I believe it stupidly. Like I have no evidence other than I still take medication. I still have a psychiatrist I see regularly. I have a counselor I see regularly, but I can podcast. I can be there for my family. I wake up on time. I'm exercising. I'm losing weight. I'm doing things to improve myself. So the signs are pointing to James is healed. But still daily, I pray like the man did when he was asking for healing. He said, Lord, I believe, but help my unbelief. Mm-hmm. You know, I believe I'm healed stupidly, just blindly, but there's evidence to the contrary at times. So I also daily pray, heal me for today. You know, it says that his word's a lamp to our path or to our feet. You know, it's a light to our, it's a lamp to our feet, a light to our path. I go day by day. I worry about today. Tomorrow will take care of itself. So God, heal me today. Give me emotional, physical, spiritual, and emotional energy and social energy for today. Help me and heal me today. Thank you for healing overall. I believe it. I receive it. I accept it. But help me with today. And so when I have a day where I want to sleep all day because I don't have energy, I'm still healed. Still healed. I'm just having a rough day. Yeah. You know? Because I'm not feeling depressed. I'm not feeling anxious. I don't hate myself. I still did chores around the house. I still got up and prayed, read my Bible, worked out. And again, am I falling into a trap of pleasing God? No, this is an overflow from trusting God and having his love in me. And that's what I think. I think everybody is a minister. I used to say that ministry comes out of your overflow. And I use it like a kid with a little cup, and he's got a little too full, right? And he's just holding that cup, and he's trying to get to his mom so he can sit down after church and eat his chicken. And he's going to spill a little bit, and then he bumps into somebody, and what happens? Whatever's in that cup spilt on that person, right? Right. And so whatever's in your cup is going to accidentally, when you run into other people throughout your life, is going to come out. So if you're full of spite and anger and bitterness, that's what's going to come out. And how many of it? St. Louis has a lot of those people in it, you know. But if you're full of God's faithfulness and his grace, and you quit trying to please him, and you just trust him, and you live by faith, which is so hard to do. Everybody says it's so easy. When you bump around or you mess up or you have a bad time, that's what's going to come out. And that's the kind of life I'm trying to live now. That's good. Am I happy all the time? Is everything a bag of roses? No. Is bag of roses even a thing to say? No. But
it is now.
It's supposed to be a bed of roses, I think, is what it actually is.
Yeah, but you can't take a bed of roses with you. A
That's
bag
true.
of
And
roses
who
is
wants
more
to
portable.
lay in a bed of roses? I've never understood that. That would hurt very bad, actually. Life is not a bed of roses. Good.
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
It looks nice, and then you lay on it and you get hurt. There's
Yeah.
like a different metaphor there, and it's not what it's been used for.
It's not good. You just, yeah. Yeah.
Do you ever have, like, when you have those days where it's just a rough day, is there any part of you that, like, in the back of your mind is like, oh no, I'm having a bad day. This is
terrified.
depression coming back.
Terrified, because depression is still there.
Yeah.
It's still, it's my chemicals are still not right. I still take medicine, and every time, even in prayer, sometimes I just have to tell God about the fear that I have. God, please, I'm gonna cry again. Please don't let it go back to the way it was, because it's so good. It's so good right now. I mean, I would have to be a whole different kind of strong if it ever went back to the way it was. I don't know if I can make it. It's kind of like one time I said, if it turns out that God has a dad, I'm done. Like, if there's one more person I got to please above God, I'm freaking over this. And so if I had to go through depression again, I don't think I can make it.
So Mormonism is not for you.
No.
No offense to any Mormons in the audience. I'm not, all respect.
Yeah. So I terror. I mean, of course. Why wouldn't you? But I believe that God is going to love me no matter what. If I show up in heaven, and they're showing slideshows of everybody's life, I believe Christ stands up and just says, you know what? I took care of all that. His name's in the freaking book.
Yeah.
He wouldn't say freaking, though. Probably
He
not.
might. We don't know.
He might. That'd be cool like that. And so if this is what God wants from my life, if he wants me to suffer, that you asked me earlier about coming to terms with God. That's what I had to come to. When I let go of God and he didn't let go of me, I'm like, okay, now I have to relearn God.
Yeah.
I have to start over, because I believed in a God that said yes, no, or not now. I used to teach my kids that at children's church. He says yes, no, or not now. But we glance over the no part, because sometimes God does say no, and he says no more than you think. He says no more than you think. And I asked for healing, and God said no. Now, ultimately, somebody would say, no, he said not now. No, he said no to me. And I had to live with a God that would say no. And Jesus prayed, let this cup pass me by. And God said no to him too.
Wow.
And that's why Jesus said for the first time, he always called him his Father. But what did he say from the cross? My God, why hast thou forsaken me? For the first time, Jesus saw God like we saw him, separated from a distance. You know, someone that had maybe seemed like he turned his back on us. But I had to accept a God that was like, before I accepted a God that had given me talents and giftings and a career I loved and children that I loved to minister to and a loving family and all this. And now I had to accept a God that might just let me suffer till my dying day. And I still believe in that God. He may want that from me. There are people that are born with afflictions that they will live with and their families will live with their entire life. You know this very well. And if that's what God wants from them, that is valuable and of value and of purpose. And to understand that and to be able to accept that is the hardest thing in the world. But he loves us. It's summed up in John 3:16. It's all there, the whole summary of the whole Bible. That God loved the world so much that he sent his one and only Son, so that because he loved us, so that we would not perish and we could have eternal life. I mean, that is a summary of the whole Bible. Is okay? I bought a projector one time for $35, a wall projector, and I sold it on eBay for $350. So what was that thing worth? It was worth $350. It was worth what that guy paid for it. It wasn't worth $35. It was worth $350. What did God pay for you? He paid with his own Son. You are worth so much, no matter what condition you're in. If you take a $100 bill and you crumble it up and you try to give it to a homeless person, are they going to say, no, that thing's nasty. It's all crumbled up. No, why? Because its value hasn't changed. So we all have value because we're children of God. And I don't care how confused you are about your sexuality. I don't care who you sleep with. I don't care what church you go to. You are a child of God. And the only thing that's going to send you to hell is not having a relationship with him. So there you go. There's my nutshell. Wow. I'm not going to be able to not cry the rest of the show. I'll just tell you that right now. Once this gets going, it just keeps coming.
I asked you earlier about your identity, what that did to you in the
aftermath. I am male, cis. I identify. Oh, okay.
That's good.
Sorry, I got off the track there.
That's not your Twitter bio.
Okay, all right, yeah.
No, well, I mean, I feel like you kind of just answered it right now. Like, you are a child of God. Is there anything you would add to that?
I am a broken person. And that's exactly apparently what God wants me to be. Because when I was fixed, when I was right, I thought I was untouchable. I thought that my dealings with God had me on a special level that I would never struggle like other people struggled. That I would see other people with cancer and things that would happen with their kids in their life. And somehow I would never get prideful. I never thought it was pride. I think it was pride, but it was like, I'll never deal with that because I'm right where God wants me to be. I'm the center of his will, you know? But the trick was, I think I was in the center of his will the whole time. Yeah. You know, just like the disciples, when they were on the storm and Jesus was sleeping, they were right there with him and the storm was going on. And Jesus got up. They said, hey, what are you doing? And he said, peace, be still. He called the storm peace. He didn't say storm, be still. That's what you would normally say. He said, peace, be still. Peace can look like a storm, but if you're with Jesus, you have nothing to worry about because you're in the middle of his will. You're with him and he will take care of you. And I can still say that after all the crap that my family has been through because of me. So, no, I have a deeper understanding of God. I have a deeper understanding of myself. My family loves me more than I could ever comprehend. And I'm getting interviewed by awesome people because of it. So,
what would you say to someone who's struggling through depression right now?
Don't ever give up, please. It seems so real and so permanent. And depression is so good. It's the perfect disease, but it's a liar. And no matter how real it feels, it is a lie. Everything is a lie. Even the stuff that's true is being exaggerated to the point that it's a lie. I used to tell people, they said, you're not a failure. I am. I was like, imagine if I had to get a cake to a wedding and the tire popped and I didn't have a replacement. No one would blame me for the cake not getting there, but I still failed because the cake didn't make it to the wedding. And that's the way I would explain to people, even though you think I'm not a failure, I'm still a failure. And the thing is that I've learned is that even though that seems true, depression is the one that set up the situation. Depression is the one that popped the tire and stole the spare. Depression is the one that made the situation that you had to be there at a certain time in a certain place. Depression created the entire situation for you to feel like a failure. Everything about that is a lie. You're not a failure, you're struggling. If you had cancer, you wouldn't hate yourself. If you had a brain tumor, you wouldn't hate yourself. If you were struggling with any other physical malady that you couldn't control, you would never turn it inward. You would go and seek help, and people would support you and love you, and they wouldn't ask you if your relationship with God is right. They wouldn't do those things. They would say, how can we help? But for some reason, with mental illness, we still have a stigma that something must be wrong, something must be broken, God must not be happy. And that is the message that I want to leave people with, is God loves you very much. He hasn't given up on you. And you, if you're going through hell, keep going.
Is there a resource you would recommend to anyone else going through this?
Go to the doctor, no matter how miserable and embarrassing it is. And get help. Don't try to do it on your own. Get people that support you and show them how to love you because it's different and they don't know how. And be nice to the people, even though you don't feel it. Be very nice and loving because they will be there for you when nobody else is. And if anything makes you feel good that's not self-destructive, if anything makes you feel good, for me, it was fail videos on YouTube, dude. It was the only thing that could make me feel anything. And I hated fail videos because people get hurt.
Right.
It's stupid people doing stupid things and they win stupid prizes. And, but I would sit for hours and watch fail videos because it would release, enough serotonin in my brain to kind of counteract the evil. And then it was the entire series of Parks and Rec, end to end, 3 times in a row that I watched that show because it gave me something. So whatever it is, I've heard of scrapbooking helps some people, journaling. If prayer and reading the Bible works for you, God bless it, go for it. But if it doesn't, it's okay. God is still there for you. And that's the message I have for people is do whatever you have to do and don't give up. You can outlive depression. And I say outlive, and that's why I call my podcast Outlive Depression, not survive, not overcome, because you can survive something and barely be alive.
Yeah.
You could lose your legs, your arms, everything, and you still survived, but you're not worth a crap. You can outlive it. And I love that word because it means you're alive, you're thriving, and it is dead. It is gone. And it was trying to kill you, an enemy in the dark that was trying to sneak up on you, and you outlived it. And I believe everybody can do that, but you have to stay alive. You have to stay alive. Depression wants to kill you. It wants to kill you no matter if it's situational depression. It wants to kill you if it's medical, brain, whatever. Stay alive. Just decide. I'm not going to ever kill myself. Though it sucks, though it's terrible, I'm going to live no matter what, for no reason at all. Even if I don't believe in why, I'm not going to kill myself. And I am 50. I outlived my dad several years ago, and I'm very proud of that. So
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I think everybody in this room is thankful that you outlived depression.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
And thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you for letting me be
coming
on your
my show. I'm
show.
not sure who's the guest here.
I am. I'm the one that got all weepy.
It's like layers of guests because like you hosted me doing this, and then I'm hosting you doing this. So it's like it's an onion.
We're good friends. We've known each other for years.
We've known each other since
like 2006.
2006, 2007. Whenever like you started podcasting, I think I was a pretty early listener when you were doing it. Yeah, back in 2006, 2007. We've known each other through podcasting since then. So that's 17, 18 years, whatever that is.
Yep.
And we only just met in person yesterday, and I fell asleep on your couch and you hit me with a pillow.
It doesn't take long for you to become my best friend.
Yeah. But I do want to just say, like, the impact you've had from afar has been really big on my life in a lot of ways.
I appreciate that. I don't believe it, but I appreciate it.
Well, okay, that's fine. I was just going to make up some crap. Like
you don't have to. I get it.
I never would have taken up surfing on live volcanoes if it hadn't been for you. And no, I mean just from afar, the impact you've had, and I know I'm not the only one. I mean, like you have people from all over the country here coming to listen to you. Understanding depression is something I would not have such an understanding of depression. I kind of had a similar view as the one you had, as like, just kind of, I don't know, figure it out. Like you just push through it. Like you can, you've got it.
Yeah.
And it is through you opening up about it has helped me to have a much better understanding of what's actually going on, what you're actually dealing with, what that experience is, how that impacts your life and your relationships. And I know I'm not the only one. And like podcasting in general, I started podcasting before you by a few months.
Really?
Yes, not as consistently
I was about to say,
over the past 18 years.
We hit the ground running in December.
Yeah. But you have impacted me in a lot of ways because you've gone and you've shared your expertise through podcasting. There's a lot of other just ways that you've impacted my life that I don't know how to talk about without it feeling like I'm bragging. But it's only because of you. I'll just say I used to write for the Babylon Bee, and that was a connection that I wouldn't have if I hadn't known James Kennison. I do voice acting on the side, and that's actually something I wouldn't be doing if you hadn't introduced me to a platform for that. And it's like there's a lot of little things like that make me really appreciative of you, and just to finally get to talk with you in person and see you is pretty freaking awesome. And I just love you, and I'm so glad you're on the show. I'm super thankful to everybody here who listened to a podcast by me, who you don't know, and you've never heard of this podcast. And thank you for sitting through this while I try to.
And check out Shiftstorm.
Yes, you said
out
it right.
there. I looked. They saw me look.
He's been calling it Shift Show for
It sounds
for
so much
days.
better, but it sounds so much worse.
Shift
This
Storm.
is a shift show, you
Yes.
know?
And for anyone listening to my podcast later, definitely check out James Kennison and his shows, That Story Show and Outliving Depression, and We're Both Right. And just, again, thank you all.